Hey guys, I'm Chris.
And I'm Mike.
Welcome back to this week's No Limits, the Scot Harvath Podcast, brought to you this week by none other than Vitamin I.
Oh.
Good old Vitamin I will take care of any of your nicks, scrape, bumps, and bruises. Scott always has a bottle on hand, and so do I this week, Mike. How you doing?
Oh boy, you're going to need a little bit more than just vitamins. That knee is acting up again, huh?
Yeah. So, I'll set the stage. We're walking to a parade. My mother-in-law is dancing in the Philadelphia St. Patty's Day parade. Got all the kids decked out, all green. You know, it's like 9 o'clock in the morning. We're walking to an Irish bar where the pregame is at. And hadn't had anything to drink yet. Nothing to drink. Because we literally went to we went to church 8:30 mass or 7:30 mass. We got in the car and then drove down. And Caroline, I was like, "Oh, should we crack one on the ride down?" She's like, "No. Just wait. We're gonna get to a bar. It's fine." Why I wore these old shoes of mine, I don't know. They were there.
Your Irish step dancing shoes?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Because that's how you did it, right?
I'm pushing all the kids, besides Patrick, in the stroller. And some jackass, like the traffic's all like screwed up, so I don't know, maybe he didn't realize, but they pull in front of me, and so I have to like pull back quickly on the stroller.
Yeah.
And it had rained like hell the night before. I slide underneath the stroller on my butt, and in the process jack my knee up again. This is the same knee, the infamous knee that I sprained heavily at your wedding and dislodged a piece of cartilage that, that I was drinking. I will admit that time.
I was going to say, we got to correct the record. You were drinking when this really started off and took place here.
I still blame the shoes. I'm blaming the shoes in both cases.
Both times the guy's bringing up the shoes.
But anyways, I'm here. We're there. I have my knee is in a brace. Get the results of the MRI soon, but hopefully I'm back. I have to be back ready in time for our golf outing in a little over a month. I got a month to rest up. So
the annual April golf outing. So you got to that's the goal. Just rest up till then. Don't go to work. Yeah. Don't take care of the kids. Don't do anything. Just stay at home, podcast, and get ready to golf.
I told Caroline, I was like, yeah, I can't put the kids to bed tonight. Like, my knee's hurting me. She's like, you were just gone for 9 days. You've been sitting all day. Get your ass up and help me at least read a bedtime story. And I was like, oh, okay, fine, I can do that.
Yeah, man, we had a little break from potting. I can't believe the last book we did was The Seventh Floor, the McCloskey book over on Thriller Pod. That was a banger, but it feels like so long ago. And you've been busy, you've been traveling, you've been fucking up your knee. So a little grace from the listeners here, but you might be in a dark place with your knee. Scott is in a dark place in Near Dark. But we're not going to go negative on this one, which a lot of people, I think, anticipate based on some of my earlier comments. Chris, this book is way better than I remember. Way better than I've been giving it credit for, with a few little, jabs that I've made earlier on the pod. Coming off of Spymaster and Backlash, Near Dark is a really, really good follow-up to that. It's ushering in a new wave. It's showing a total change in who Scott is and what his missions and relationships will look like. There's a lot of growth in his trajectory. And when I first read this book, I think I kind of disassociated it from Spymaster, which had been 2 years earlier,
right,
I believe. And then Backlash was so good, like I was only thinking Backlash, kind of forgot the details of Spymaster. And you really need them for this one. This book is like the Spymaster sequel that Backlash was not, because Backlash was almost a standalone. This one is not a standalone at all. I really, really think this book needed Spymaster, and Spymaster needs this book.
So I'm not coming in negative, but I'm definitely going to need you. Often I play the role of convincing you, elevating your score. But I can see, you're already selling it, Mike. I can see what you're saying. For me, it was just like the reading these, and it's kind of like counterintuitive though. Reading these back to back to back, helps for sure sometimes. But then I was just so locked in to Backlash, and like I love that book, and I was let down in the beginning of this, but I will say towards the very end we have like the Mont Saint Michel scene at the end is freaking like almost saves my score essentially for this book. But there's like some nuances that I think we're going to touch on that Brad is playing with. I do have some nitpicks. Like, is it too soon to be moving on from Laura? Like, that's
a big question.
That's a big question.
Yeah.
But Scott's in a dark place, and I guess we've seen him like this a little bit before, around Tracy times, around where he has some of his friends, caught up in some of his, but this is super personal, right? In Tracy's case, it was just, she got injured and, that forced the relationship to end. But here, the loss of his wife really didn't have the opportunity to like grope with that. He was just dealing with that in Backlash, like having these premonitions, like he needed to just survive to get out of the Russian cold.
Yeah.
But now back stateside, it's like, oof, all washing over him. And, it's crazy how we open up this book, man.
Yeah, the Florida Keys stuff, a few things I remembered about Near Dark when I was down on it, kind of where you're at, was the Florida Keys, like, bar fight, I don't really need it, where's this going? I get that Scott's in a tough place. Does he move on too quickly? I want to say, yeah, he moves on too quickly if it's only 2 books, right? But a couple of, like you said, really fine details kind of iron that out for me and make it all right. And one is just Solvy's the best.
Yeah.
Solvy is amazing. We could talk about her, and I'm sure that's going to come, but that she and her strong entrance and excellent character writing, I think makes it not too soon. Also, Backlash happened. Backlash was a momentous, major shock. And so I could see Scott waking up and being like, a fresh start might not be a bad thing. Like it will jumpstart him into realizing he's been given the second chance at life and at a family and a relationship, and not to jeopardize that. Like he can't wallow for too long sitting around knowing just the deck stacked against him, how he can be taken out at any minute. So I think that those 2 things jumpstart for me. I'm okay with him moving on this soon. He went through it in Backlash, he went through hell and back. I think that's going to give him a fresh perspective on life and getting a move on. The other thing, I'll give you an example here of something I was down on in my first read, but now I appreciate so much more. The scene in Lithuania when he goes to the truck driver's home. When this book first came out and I read that, I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I remember this guy vaguely, but why are we making a big deal of going to his house and finding him? And why does Scott have this lengthy conversation with him? It struck me as strange. But now that I recall that truck driver and everything he did for them and put it together with the Russians coming after him, it was so cool to go back to that tidbit and realize how connected Luxo was. And then the fact that Nicholas had to find him, so it gave Nicholas a purpose to do his computer wizardry and nail this guy down in Lithuania. I think when I first read it, both Luxa, the truck driver, and Landsbergis were just these random characters. We didn't need them. Side story, where are we going? But they were such an integral part in Spy Master and supporting Scott. It's like, I want to know, did either of these guys give up Scott? And did they give up Scott willingly or under duress from the threat of the Russians? So it's like Scott tracking leads of how they got compromised in Spy Master. And to me, that makes those 2 scenes great when he's hunting those, or he's following those leads, tracking down those guys. The other thing that ties this all together is Carl Pedersen.
Yeah.
What an aura of a legend and a character who's not even on page. Is there ever a moment we're on page with this guy?
In this book, no.
Is there a period?
Yeah, no, because he's the one that puts him in touch with Landsberg. Like he's in like maybe a couple chapters.
Yeah, that's true.
in
Spy
Spymaster.
Master. Yeah. Either way, though, everything we've heard about Carl along the way and what he's meant to Solvi and how he mentored her, saved her life,
He's
of
the Reed
Donatello story.
Carlton of Norway, essentially, right?
He's the Reed Carlton of Norway, but he also has this personal relationship with everybody, with Reed, with Solvi, with Scott. And he meant so much to people, and Landsbergis as well, right? That's why Landsbergis didn't turn. It was his boss. Landsbergis is higher up in Lithuanian intelligence who turned and sold them all out. It's just so cool to have this Carl character as this specter, this like legend who we don't even see in this book and we don't even meet much at all. But every character has a deep, fond appreciation for, and this intense duty that they have to do anything they can to find his killer. And that puts them on the collision course with Paul Obertan, because villains is something we also have to talk about. Originally, I would have said very lacking in this book. Who's this Irish guy? His backstory wasn't really totally working for me the first time. But now you make the connection that he hunted down Carl, he killed Carl. I just think that makes it all come together. So you got to do a little work with this book. But like all Brad Thor books, he's operating on such a higher level that if the reader is willing to put in the work, remember these details, put these threads together, it's a really, really finely woven textile. The texture of the story and the plot and the relationships is there, and it checks. It just could very much confuse you if your head isn't in the game.
Yeah, and if you pick up this story for the first time, you start with this book, I'm sure it's confusing.
Terrible standalone.
I could see how waiting 2 years, and not revisiting Spy Master, how many thrillers can you read in 2 years? But yeah, like I said before, it's this book is definitely elevated in this reread back to back to back type fashion where we're so heavily focused on each plot and thinking about everything as we go along. But yeah, I 100% agree with you that Brad does a masterful job. Even if you think of this as a standalone, he does a really good job at getting you to buy into this Pedersen character who is, if he does have any dialogue, in a flashback sequence with Solvi, it's, very minimal, but you sense the gratitude, the reverence that a lot of the characters we meet have for him and what they're willing to go through. It's very similar to what Scott is willing to do for Reed, and we have that relationship with Reed. So it's associating that to those two relationships kind of by proxy in a sense.
Right.
Yeah. 100% agree with you with that.
This book is also bringing back Gary Lawler.
Oh yeah, I was going to bring that
massive move
is one of the, because we've seen Gary now, I guess because we've jumped around, right? Since starting this podcast, we covered Rising Tiger, Deadfall.
Yep. So we know he's back.
And what's the other one that we just did? Shadow of Doubt. Yeah, so we know he's back. And it's trying to remember how he was integrated. And then, as we're going on this reread, it's wait, where the hell has Gary Lawler been all this time? And then you bring him back and you have that conversation that they have.
Great conversation to get him up to speed.
It was very interesting. And almost this sense, I felt like Brad was building this sense of apprehension that Scott kind of had. I think he even gives Scott a line in his head where, oh wow, a lot has happened while I've been gone. That you've done this, and Nicholas took the leap, to essentially believe that Scott would agree with his decision. And I think, Scott's in a weird place, right? So I think normally he would 100% be on board with this, but because of where he's at, a little bit apprehensive, in his mind, he wants both. Even though he says he doesn't want to get out of the field, he obviously he doesn't want to get out of the field, but he also wants to be the head of the Carlton Group.
Yeah. But especially out of respect for Reed's, dying wishes.
Yes.
But bringing Gary Lawler in is a perfect way out of that. And of course, who's smart enough to do that? Nicholas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That in itself makes this book really meaningful. It's just, again, it would be a terrible standalone novel. So Backlash was the ultimate excellent standalone novel, and I'd recommend it to anyone to start this series and meet Scot Harvath. This one is one of the worst to recommend to somebody, because you'd be like, who are these people? Why does it matter that this guy Gary's being brought in? Who was Reed Carlton? I never heard of him. Like, what a terrible, terrible place to start if you've never read the series.
Oh yeah, yeah, because all the rapport we built up. They don't even mention that like Gary was involved with like this, like the stuff in Lions gets brought up, but it's not like that. You know, how we first meet Gary and Brad in that situation. It only gets brought up that he was like, you know, the head of the IIA or whatever, and that kind of stuff.
Dude, do you remember when Gary comes in to lay the smack down on Scott at the barn?
He went to the house and
that scene, I can picture I think it was Scott who was scared that Gary was coming in.
Yeah, because you think it's like, oh shit, this guy's gonna come in and Scott's gonna go to jail, like he's gonna, you know, do whatever. But then you realize that he's mad because he's a father figure to Scott, not because he's actually mad at him. Like it's and then again, we've said it time and time again, Brad is, if not one of the best at getting you to buy in. You know, character development is one of his greatest attributes. That traveling, this book has a lot of traveling. We're back to traveling heavy.
We have not been traveling heavy for a number of books.
No, we haven't.
Like
we have
Scott,
not.
Or Brad reined that in big time. Dude, I tried to write it down. I think I got to 11 places and gave up. This is old school Brad Thor right here with the traveling heavy.
It's intense.
Key West. We start in Key West. Oslo with Solvi, the Thief Hotel. Belfast, Paul Oberton's background.
Mm-hmm.
Normandy, and across a bunch of little areas on the northern coast of France. Nice. Nice was that weird scene, and probably my biggest nitpick of the book. When we go back to the Russian oligarch, Nekrasov, who's going to play a big role in the end. We've really got to talk about the last like 2 chapters.
Yeah.
It's just Easter eggs for no reason. Just rapid fire hitting you in the face with just, you know, little treats for the fans. And it almost made no sense to the plot. But there was this weird scene I forgot about where the Russian oligarch is in his car watching like some street thugs almost fight in this knife battle.
Oh, yeah.
And like there's some Arab teen who he bets money on, and then he talks to the guy and wants to hire him. He says something about his wife's boob job. I was just like, what the fuck is this little scene? Why? And
I was so confused.
We don't go back to it until the very, 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 very ending.
Yeah, because he's ultimately the guy, right, that put the bounty out on Scott.
Because he was the godfather of the Russian president's son, Peshkov's son, who Scott killed last book. So in his hunt for everyone at the end of Backlash. But there's even a deeper cut, because that's the same Russian oligarch who Scott ran from and he stole the car from with the wife in it.
His wife, yes.
And his wife and him had a nice little drive, you know, across Monaco or something. And for all that to come back to roost, that Scott uses his relationship and friendship with the wife, Ava. I was like, this could be really cool, but it's just jammed in here for a book that if you're a new reader, you already don't know what's going on. And then you add that whole sequence. And it even has the guy who works at the hotel.
Oh, yeah, we go back to him.
He was on the payroll for the Russian oligarch. Damn, he had a memorable name, too. When I heard that name, I was like, I remember you.
I remember that guy, yeah.
What book was that? Because that scene was super cool, and it's been referenced. That scene has been referenced, I think, 2 or 3 times.
Was that one of those Hidden Order?
I think it's earlier than that. Foreign Influence?
If you vamp, I can...
I really want to remember the guy's name who worked at the hotel, who was like the fixer. Because when that name came up, I was like, oh, damn, deep cut. And then the fact that we already had that weird scene.
Gaston Levesque. It is Gaston Levesque. Gaston Levesque. Dominique Fournier. Yeah.
Yeah, Dominique. Yep. And Eva was the wife. Now, did we have a scene, or am I confusing it with Mitch Rapp, where he already used his relationship with the wife? Have we seen Eva before in between that book and this one?
Eva comes back. That's the problem where we've gone ahead, right? She comes back in Shadow of Doubt or in Deadfall.
So Scott uses her again. But timeline-wise, this would have been the first time she came back since Foreign Influence?
Correct.
Okay. I thought it had happened already. I was like, is this one a rehashing? Or was there a future rehashing of this? I was also thinking, am I confusing this with Mitch Rapp, who befriends that Mexican drug cartel guy's wife when he has breakfast in their house in Lethal Agent?
Yeah, she comes back in the last book, Shadow of Doubt.
Ava comes back in Shadow of Doubt. I was like, I thought this had been done already because we had just read Shadow of Doubt. It's an interesting move. I mean, if you're going to do that, great. Like, what
It's
a
a
scene
great
from
deep
Far
cut
Influence.
for like
It's great.
the super fans.
It just wasn't the place. It was not the place.
And it's the last 2 chapters. It's like it's shoved at the very end.
It was crazy. So I don't know for how good the Mont Saint Michel scene was, because this book needed a massive set action piece, and we got it.
We got it.
Like, we got it. And then boom, we go on to these random side quests.
Yeah, but we're going to. You didn't even mention we go to Brussels. We go to Lithuania.
Right, I didn't finish the list. Yeah,
We go to Camp David. We have like
Brussels was the air base. Oh, the Camp David scene with Nicholas. Great.
With Nicholas. We go to Boston.
Boston with Marco.
With Marco. That was touching. And then finishing up at Mont Saint Michel.
Yeah, just that's a lot going on. In Lithuania, we're also driving from Vilnius.
Yeah, we
to
go
Siauli, where the graveyard is near Lucas's house. And then that random drop at the end of, I'm going to need those crosses. Order me 5 crosses. 4 for now, but I might need the 5th. I couldn't remember, but that was from a little line where he was going to Lucas's house, and he's like, I'm going to put in this graveyard a cross for everyone I hunted down who had a hand in Carl Patterson's death. Or Reed's death too. At the end, he orders the crosses, but not one for the Russian oligarch, Nakrasov, like, because he didn't kill him. Why he didn't kill him, I don't know.
Again, the ending was confusing to me.
Yeah. But this is where Scott's money comes from.
Right. Because
this is where he gets it. Yeah.
He gets all the money.
He extorts the oligarch, and he and Ava split the cut. Interesting.
Super interesting.
I would love to ask Brad, what were you thinking squeezing that last scene in? Like,
I just want to know what he was thinking, like trying to bring out all these deep cuts, like he's heavily influenced by Spy Master, could have chose to go anyway after Backlash. And so we decide to put a bounty out on on Scott's head and have him. And it's almost like this Gray Man-esque plot, right?
Yes.
With they put out, it's not just one assassin, it's an assassin that hires like a bunch of other assassins.
Yeah. Because you got that Vietnamese guy, or they meet in Thailand.
Very strange. But
it's very strange. I also didn't...
Go for it.
No, I was just going to say, if they had this idea, why would Paul Oberton insert himself to kill Carl Patterson, but then hire out the hit on Scott? It was weird.
That was confusing me. Like their scheme, like him and the Vietnamese guy, like this idea that we're gonna split the money by essentially subcontracting out this kill to like a bunch of other people and then kill them. But then they put themselves in the line of fire by getting involved. Like,
it's kind of half baked.
Yeah, they're not the best villains, so You brought it up before, though. Getting introduced to Salvi, even though, like, I will admit, we already said it, like, I do think it's a little quick. I think it's saved, and you kind of said it too, that by how great of a character she is.
She's amazing.
And, really invest. This is like half of her book. Like, we spend a lot of time alone with her.
Completely.
Especially in the beginning until they meet up. So, yeah, I think it could have gone one of two ways, where you bring in this character, you don't invest much time in her, you make her this buxom,
exactly.
But she's a little scarred, right? I mean, she's beautiful.
Is.
Obviously, she has to be. But she has skeletons in her closet with that, and then the brutal description of like her time married, like with her husband, and her husband like leaving her because like that was just gut wrenching.
Mm-hmm.
So again, Brad puts in the time, gets you to buy in, and then by the end, I think you realize these are two broken people who just lost their mentor and, you know, have obviously lost other things along the way. And maybe in this case, it's best for them. They need each other. You know, it's like, and I do agree that in the next couple of books, this relationship kind of works out because they're both the same. Like, you know, unlike an Anna and a Mitch Rapp where like you have diametrically opposite people, that is someone who could never, is just constantly trying to get you out of the game. You know, not that Laura was trying to get Scott out of the game, but, you know, she's a cop. She's not a spy. She doesn't, you know, live on that level. And it's akin to me of like not a Donatello. It's akin to me of a, why am I forgetting your name?
Well, it's very much a Donatello, especially with the drugs and the substance abuse.
Yeah, but I was thinking more so Anna's mom, Claudia, because Claudia's a spy.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
She's not like a wet spy.
Yeah.
She's like
no,
more
she's
of like
a logistics
person, but she understands the game, right?
She's in the game. She's in the game. Yeah. No, it definitely makes sense. Claudia is a good pull there because Solvi is very much in the game. She even gets a promotion at NIS and Norwegian Intelligence Services. We know down the road, it's not a big spoiler, but we know around Deadfall,
she gets a big promotion, right?
She gets her promotion and she doesn't want to leave Norway. Scott doesn't want to stop what he's doing. So it kind of changes their relationship. Here, they're kind of two peas in a pod. Scott's happy operating in Norway. Well, Black Ice and Deadfall and Rising Tiger, they're going to have to realize if they both have these different careers, different parts of the world, Solvi wants to stay and deserves to stay because she earned it. That's going to be tough for them to work through. You know what? We get a Meg Cassidy appearance as well.
We do.
Deep cuts.
We do. I know, it's insane, man.
Because they go to Switzerland.
You know, you're thinking of, we do get a Meg Cassidy reference, but we get a Claudia Mueller appearance.
Oh, that's who I'm thinking. No,
Yeah.
That's who I'm thinking. I'm thinking Claudia Mueller. Yeah, I'm not thinking Meg Cassidy. We don't get Meg Cassidy.
Her name is brought up.
Are you serious? When?
Well, or if it's not her name, it's about how Scott saved like a girl on an airplane, you know, essentially her plot, right?
That is mentioned. No, I was thinking Claudia Mueller. Right. Because she does give them some intel in Switzerland, says like, we're hands off. Oh, and they take the guy.
And we're gonna go back to her a couple more times in the next couple of novels. I know she pops up again in Deadfall. She pops up again in Shadow of Doubt. So
Brad, man, he's pulling on some old strings.
Now that we know how he does his thing, like he writes everything on cue cards, it's almost like for this one, he was
pull one out.
All right, how am I going to insert this character into this novel?
Yeah. Go through the Rolodex, just spin it and then put your finger in and grab a card and you got to work it in. Yeah. The women in Scott's life, you could write a book, you could write an encyclopedia on this thing, and it's crazy to say it, but even in her first book, Solvi jumps right to the front of the pack.
Sure.
I mean, we loved Laura, but she hadn't been around. Like, you meet her, she comes on strong, and then she's kind of just in the background, 4, 5, 6 books. Scott's thinking about her. Claudia Mueller was awesome, but she got married, did her own thing. It was cool when she was brought back. That scene with the boat, there was a boat explosion. Maybe it's at her wedding, I think, right? Of all the women, Tracy was great. We loved Tracy, the bomb tech, right? How she would defuse bombs and how they really bonded when he was standing on that pressure plate. Boy, this is a throwback.
We're gonna have this conversation when we wrap up the series.
We finish the series,
you know, the best female sidekick in this series, or top 5.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of, Holiday Hayes, also an awesome character.
And now she's back in like the next, like whenever we see in the next couple, right?
She's definitely in the next few. She plays a big role in one of them. Was it Rising Tiger? Was it Black Ice? She's definitely around. She has a few more key scenes, but I really like that she's our CIA kind of liaison, because these books with Scot Harvath aren't often CIA focused. It's almost null on CIA. It's kind of cool that there is a contact and someone who knows Solvay so well. They would have this working, professional, but also personal relationship with both of their positions. And I think it's kind of cool to see that happen. So great B-level character, maybe C-level character.
Yeah, and we also go back to Monica Yashinsky, another character we liked from Spy Master. And, her boss, which I don't think we really met, if we did at all.
With the Admiral?
We get, a nice conversation where, Scott's trying to, I don't think he actually really thinks that they would sell him out, but, he's got to check all his boxes. But, nice to see Monica come back. I hadn't remembered that no, this is my first time reading it. So, I don't think she comes back again.
No, I don't think so. But it was nice to clear their names, because in that quick conversation, you quickly realize her and her boss, who's the Supreme Allied Commander, right? Of NATO, I think.
Of NATO, yeah.
How they check out. They're like, no, we're clean. Go hunt down the other leads. And Scott buys it. And, Scott with his tells, he knows when somebody's bullshitting him.
Lying,
and he trusts these people.
Always.
Nicholas or Gary, I think Gary even says to him when he's getting caught up, you really trust this woman just because you guys had one little op together and operated in the field once? He's like, yes, I do.
Well, he did save her life.
Yeah. One last thing on Solvay. Dude, the fact that he's now with this bombshell Norwegian lady after his nickname Norseman, perfect.
Ooh,
it's just poetic justice.
He has to ride this out. What is Brad gonna do? He's done this multiple times now. It's like every 5 books we get a new female character, but now he's capped it off with the Norseman conquering a Norse. Yeah,
dude. And she even gives it to him. She even gives him a little jab, when he uses a Norwegian phrase. She's like, yeah, well, not just pickup lines to get Scandinavian flight attendants. Do you know any more Norwegian than that? So she ribs on him for the Norseman. Does she know the Norseman name from Carl Patterson, sharing that intel or in his file? Maybe.
I think she even says that Carl had let him know about Scott. She knows about Scott before they even had met.
Sure, but was she just getting a read on the Norseman thing, or did she know the nickname and she was playing into it?
One can guess what the nickname means.
She's clever.
Once you understand who Scott is,
Yeah, she's clever.
For sure.
Oh, there's another thing you could maybe cut here. When they go to Lake Garda, Italy.
Oh,
with the woman and the countess and her magnificent house and palace. It's like, what are we doing here? It's much.
This book has, maybe that's why I coming out of it, especially with those last 2 chapters, I was just, wow, that was a lot of book. It was a lot of book
for almost no reason.
Yeah. But I think the basis of the story is solid. The idea around it, the character executions are good. It's definitely not a throwaway book, for sure. It's not one of our lesser favorite Brad Thor novels where we're gonna throw some wild Indiana Jones type. The Nazis are aliens, or Hannibal had this disease, Hannibal, or Alexander the Great, right?
Yeah. The buy-in score is not docked in this book because of some fantastical just weirdness that's okay. The buy-in is docked because there's just scenes you don't need. There's just scenes that are making deep cuts for deep cuts' sake. And think about how tight the story could be if it's Scott's depressed, drinking in Florida, needs to get back into the game. Him, Nicholas, and Gary Lawler team up to find out who killed Carl Patterson, who exposed them in Spy Master. On that path, he meets Solvay. They instantly get together. They look into people. They do what they do, find the guy. They run into the assassin, the Mont Saint-Michel thing. They take him out. End of story. They ride off into the night. Boiled down to its framework, that's a really good story, and that's really good plotting. You're moving the needle on a lot of things with that, and it's a plot that just kind of makes sense. We just stuffed it. We made a turducken when all we wanted was the classic turkey and gravy. Like, we didn't need the turducken at Thanksgiving.
It reminds me of, remember we watched that SNL skit where they were like, not only is it a pizza, but it's a pizza wrap, or a quesadilla, but it's a quesadilla wrapped in a pizza.
Yeah.
And then it's in this tote bag that's full of guac.
And we'll throw in a set of steak knives.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh man, like you just, everything and the kitchen sink, literally, you know?
So I think both of our perspectives are valid. I didn't like it the first time I read it. I would have said absolute bottom 5 in the series. I reread it with a different kind of mindset. I bump it up a little. I found more positives. I really liked a lot of things going on here. But I just don't think this book can crack into the top half of the best in the series.
No.
It's an important book, though, looking back
Sure.
at it.
I think the introduction of Solvi like makes it.
It has to go.
Yeah.
That right there is just the winner, the hands down winner. It bumps it up a few spots. It makes it meaningful. And knowing that Solvi's going to be here, it's basically a post Backlash book. It's really ushering in what is a post Reed Carlton. Where does the series go after that? And it ushers it in very well. Last thing before we get there, tell me about Mont Saint Michel. The book needed that, and it hit.
I knew this was coming, mainly either like chatting with you when you were reading it the first time, or we're chatting about the cover, and knowing that this place was going to play some role. Then we get there, and Brad just does what Brad does.
Brad does.
Like,
yep.
I've never been there. I wanted to go when we were in Paris, but we had to choose. We had to choose one day trip, and so we chose to go to Versailles. Highly recommend. It'd be cool to see Brad throw in Versailles in the future.
Sure.
But yeah, and I felt like I was there. Like, you know, I'm getting these descriptions where, you know, and I felt crowded. Like the way he's writing, I felt like Scott and Solvi like moving through the crowds, having to sit down, and then realizing, you know, Nicholas is tracking, like, wait, you're at the same location, and it's like, oh, it makes sense that he's this. Oh, we also get a bunch of conversations with that other tour guide,
the travel guide lady, which I liked. It
was great. It was great. It was like, that would have been a normal thing to put in this novel, like those, you know, tracking down the leads that way.
But the fact that we get him and Solvi doing that together, and she's so clever, she steals the cell phone, and then they blame it on the wine, and then she takes her to the bathroom, and he can get into the phone, give it to Nicholas. It's just so classic spy novel stuff that they vacation under a fake name, make up these cover stories, and then it just puts them on a collision course in the cathedral, out of the blue, didn't even know each other were there, and boom, you know, Apex Predator sees Apex Predator, and it just ignites the spark. And what's so cool is it happens right as the tide is coming in,
that was
have
key.
to leave. Yeah.
That was really cool, setting that, because, you know, for those who don't know this, and although Brad did mention in the novel, that this thing is built on an island, but when it's low tide, you can get there, like you can walk down, but
There's a causeway.
But during high tide, it's essentially has a moat. And to get this, you know, his pacing with that writing of tracking him, and you're like, wait, all right, this is where he's going to be. Oh wait, no, he didn't go that way. He's here, and then Scott's smoking him out, and we get that, you know, the scene I'm imagining on like the rocks, and like the water's coming up, and then he gets stabbed, and he sees blood, and he's faking it. Like, all that was great. Like, probably one of the hands down best chase, fight, action scene, close quarters. We get everything out in the open. Like, we're everywhere, all in one scene. Again,
Scott
packing
makes
it
a
in.
deal. Scott says he's not going to kill him.
Oh yeah,
and Scott doesn't kill him.
No, because Solvi does.
Right there, Solvi pops up and says, "I didn't make that deal." It's excellent. Oh, and it kicks off in the church, which is exciting because they're with this tour guide, and she sees they're like getting looks from people who are like, "You shouldn't be on your phone during Vespers." And Solvi eventually says, "I have to step out and make this call." And then Scott joins her, and then the crowd. I think a guy even gets shot, right? Because Oberton points his gun at Scott. Right as he shoots, somebody falls in front of Scott in the stampede. Dude, I wish we could have ended right there. You know,
that was a great ending.
And then you have to have Gaston Levesque. Why? Why do you have Gaston Levesque? All because you wrote some scene about an Arab kid having a knife fight and this Russian oligarch bets on him and wants to hire him?
I mean, I guess you had to wrap up that scene.
The connection. Who took out the... Okay, fine. That's it. Who took out the contract? If it wasn't Peshkov and it wasn't the Russian government officially, who wanted Scott dead that bad? Sure.
I would have preferred that to happen before Mont Saint Michel.
I think you're right. They found out. Yeah.
Brad had found out who hired him.
Yeah.
But still didn't know the identity of Paul Overton. So he like somehow pieces, takes one step up, does whatever he does with him, gets the information out of that for, to take them to, that, oh, he's this tour guide. And like that, I think works better for me.
It could have been Ava gets her cut of the money and says, hey, if we split this 75-25, if you give me an extra quarter of the money, I'll give you some intel I got on the assassin. And she like saw it in his notes or overheard a phone call or checked his laptop and like found out it was Paul Overton who won the contract, I think, or who killed Carl trying to get the contract. I think that would have been better. Yeah, I think you're right. All that could have happened first.
And then you just have like a coda afterwards where, you
go back to him and Salvi at the hotel because that was cute.
Exactly
cute.
Yeah, like that's perfect for me.
Yeah, he gets her the boat.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, oh man, it's got that little touch of romance. Really does.
It's nice.
There's a lot of things that save this book for me. There really are.
There's a lot of things that make this book not in the bottom 5.
Sure.
But they don't do enough
No.
to crack the top 10, I don't think. So this is book 19. We are on, this year will be book 23?
I think 24.
24?
I think Edge of Honor's 24, if I'm not mistaken.
So we're a year off from the actual year? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
One to go after we wrap up this pod and do a scorecard. Black Ice.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. Then we got to wrap up and do some superlatives.
Yeah. And then you'll hear us. So we'll do that here. We'll do our final rankings, superlatives, a couple of breakdown episodes. But after that, when Edge of Honor comes this summer, I think July, right? We're on the Thriller Podcast. Got to subscribe to No Limits, the Thriller Podcast. That's where we're going to be picking up all series. We've been doing a little Gray Man. We just did David McCloskey. We did a Nelson DeMille. We're going to be putting all Mitch Rapp books over there with Don Bentley's next book. So, Fade In with Kyle Mills. We're hoping to get Kyle Mills talk. We got our arcs for that. So be sure to subscribe. No Limits, the Thriller Podcast. After Black Ice, that's it. We're done with the Scot Harvath pod.
Feels like we just started, but here we are.
I don't know that it does, but all right. Okay.
It feels like we just started and also didn't, It feels so long ago when we kicked off in our COVID states of 2020.
It was so crazy getting to the end of the Mitch Rapp books to wrap up kind of the Mitch Rapp pod, and we're trying to choose what we do next. Brad Thor, though, was the slam dunk. Like, we were clearly doing Scot Harvath. So, yeah, to think that that's coming to a close is wild.
I've had a lot of fun doing the series.
Yeah,
especially like with you, sort of going on this ride with me, because I had, had either read most of these books or, more than you. So,
yeah, and I felt more comfortable with the Mitch Rapp series, where this one I was coming in book by book. I don't really remember this, or I don't know exactly how these characters fit together. So it was almost fun to read them as if they were brand new. Which, whatever series we do next, we've started some Gray Man. I want to do some Brad Taylor.
We'll both be in that boat, yeah.
We'll both be coming to a series brand new. So, and almost all the books on the Thriller Podcast are brand new to the both of us. Quick scorecard and get out of here. Call it a day.
Let's do it, man. Action. I think this has got to be high, and it's. There's a decent amount of other action too, but I think the final scene really props this score up. I think I'm going to go to like a solid 8.5, 9.
Yeah, I'm just going to round it out to an 8. Most of
8?
that for the final scene, yeah. A couple other things, hunting down Landsbergis. The woman in Italy is like, they were okay. not memorable at all.
What did you think about the action in the Florida Keys, where we get the guys coming in and you know, we think that Scott's done for it, and you know, his team saves the day?
Yeah, it was all right. I think what's more exciting is the breakdown of that, trying to hunt down and figure out, you know, why the guys lured him outside, and then how it was basically part of a bigger plot, which involved the contract hit and how they're getting intel on that, and they have to go to Camp David. You know what? I think Camp David, we downplayed a little bit in our chat with the different lodges, his Secret Service stuff. He goes to the golf course.
He does. I
blows
didn't
off the
realize
shrink.
it's a single hole golf course.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. But he blows off the shrink, who's there to actually play golf, trying to take the edge off, trying to make it all relaxed. And Scott ain't going to relax with that guy. Little touches like that bring it up. So on plot, I think little things like that give something back to it. Like I said before, the framework, the basic plotting outline of what you needed to do to introduce Sully and to have Scott close out Reed Carlton's murder and look into Carl Patterson's murder, it was good. I think it's also an 8.
Okay. I would agree with you. It's just like, I really just think it's way overstuffed. So I'm like a notch below you, 7.5.
Yeah. I was going to say 7 is even justified.
I can't go
if you
below a
wanted
7.
to.
But
No, yeah. I think
buy-in, I'm gonna have to dig it. I'm gonna, like, this is where I'm leaning 2.5.
Yeah.
3 is generous.
3 is a little generous, especially with that ending, and give me 2.5.
It's just insane that all this stuff, and at one point they sequester Scott, right? Like, he has to, you know, stay, like, they really want to, you know, make sure that he's not taken out. Like,
right, they were trying to hole him up in Camp David and protect him. That was Nicholas's plan initially, yeah. But then they realized his safest environment is where he's operating.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Bad guys, Paul Albertans, Irishman turned French Legionnaire.
He was kind of cool in the beginning.
He's kind of cool in the beginning, but then he's just kind of sitting back, giving tours in France while he's just hiring out other people to do his dirty work. That did not seem like his character.
No, he had potential.
He did.
To be like a very interesting character, right? And again, building this idea of him feeling, you know, really letting us in the beginning understand and connect with him, like why he's done what he's done, you know, because of his father and, you know, the IRA, that kind of, you know, the situation
cool with the IRA
in Northern Ireland. Like, yeah, I'm again, back to Bayern, I'm bought into the believability of him becoming this type of villain, but then not to use him to his maximum potential until the end scene, you know, kind of a waste, because all the other people that get sent after Scott are, you know, schmoes, you know, so.
Exactly. And we almost are trying to force a big bad with the Vietnamese guy who takes out the contract. I don't know why I'd be afraid of you as a big bad.
Or is the Russian oligarch the big bad in this one?
Well, the Russian oligarch is the big bad, fair. But he was thrown in there at awkward times and wasn't really pulling strings.
That scene where he's like betting on the...
It's too much.
Was the guy, one guy was Muslim, right?
Yeah. Who was fighting these French teens, and then... the villains aren't great. Is a 3 too kind?
I was going to say a 3 is probably too kind. I was going to another 2.5.
All right, 2.5. 2.5.
Oh, we're aligned here.
All right, I'll tell you what, though.
Good guys.
I'll tell you what. Give it to me. Give it to me just for Sully. Give me the 5. Give it to me. Landsbergis. Carl Patterson. Sully. Nicholas at Camp David. Gary Lawler. Dude, let's not even do free space. Can we just agree? One is Gary Lawler. One is Sully. Those are the 2 free spaces.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Actually,
I was going to say that actually. It's like, you know, the reintroduction of Gary Lawler and, you know, bringing in this new character who's awesome.
That's it. Those are the 2 winners.
Yeah.
Easy.
For sure.
Yeah. The setting, we talked about traveling heavy. It was a little much, but then we really liked Mont Saint-Michel. Mont Saint-Michel would be a 5. 5++.
Yeah, every place we go, do you feel like that deep connection? And I'm going to say no because of the rapid fire movements. But when we do linger in a place like Mont Saint Michel,
it works.
Or Camp David, it works.
But the flybys are pretty good in that Boston, you could feel the stakeout on the playground.
Sure.
And that little mom and pop shop where they run into each other. Ghost, is a pretty cool character.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even talk about him. Like, he's an interesting character.
The stakeout to protect Marco is really cool. How Ghost is given, or Coast is given this freedom to just kind of operate and be on the street and doesn't have to be up in a perch, a lookout. And then Thief Hotel stuff and the meeting with Holiday Hayes, and then the boats, right? I know we just stuffed in Lake Garda, but like the boat was pretty cool.
We're on a couple boats.
He gets her the boat at the Thief Hotel. Even though there were flybys of too many places, each one of those places was painted really, really well. Even the airbase. Chevrolet's in Brussels. Like, they're quick flybys. The streets of Lithuania, driving through the suburbs to get to Lux's house. Camp David? Oh, dude, Camp David's another 5. I think we got to go high here.
I'm going to go 4.5. You sold me.
Yeah, give me that 4.5. Give me that.
You give me the same? I'm coming.
Yeah. I thought I'd go lower just because it was overstuffed, but it was actually some really good stuffing. So.
Yeah, when we talked it out, it's like, no, he actually executed. So
yeah, it was executed pretty good. It didn't, because of the high volume, the quantity didn't sacrifice the quality in this case.
Right.
It's all down to covers.
I really, really like cover A.
Yeah, it's great.
I think it's probably one of my favorite Brad Thor covers, like the paperback covers.
It looks good in hardback.
And I hate, how much we don't like the solo man.
The silhouette. Yeah, standing man. Yeah, we don't like it.
But
it's okay.
In rare cases.
Yeah.
It's used like way too much. But I do think in rare cases, it can be nice. And in this case, you have, if you just think about the plot, right? You have a Scot who, a man on a mission. He's alone. He feels abandoned, or he feels lost, right? This guy, his shoulders are slumped. He has a gun in his hand. He's, looking down. Like, I love how his, dark shadow that gets bled into this, essentially using the ultimate scene from the book. If you're going to put Mont Saint Michel in the book, like it has to be on your cover.
There. Yep.
And I love the contrast between, just the straight silver and then getting this like textured blues, not in the night skyline, or whether this is night or sunrise. I don't know. I love it. It's a really well done cover.
And the shape is like the channel with the tides coming in.
Right.
You could feel that movement. This cover has a lot of movement while also
even
being
with the flowiness of like the silvers.
Exactly how there's a gradient. The silvers turn to dark gray in the middle. So this book has that like movement, that dynamism, but also is forlorn. It's somber. It's like a very interesting dichotomy of where Scott's at. He's broken, he's down, he's depressed, but he's ripped right into the action, like the currents, rushing in on Mont Saint Michel. And I think this book captures all that. I think this cover really captures the psychology of Scott, and it's super cool and just looks crisp with the gray and the blue, and it's almost shiny, the hardcover. It's phenomenal. B, on the other hand,
I don't hate it.
If you take off the random symbol of a shield, do we know what that is?
See, this is, we had this conversation. This is the new line of reissued paperbacks where they've had to plug a symbol in the middle.
For no reason.
And I think if done well, it can be good. You need to pick a symbol that means something for each book.
Yeah.
Spymaster. Great. It could potentially have multiple meanings, right? We figured that it because it plays with two different religions or two different regions, and it fits within that book.
Yep.
What are some of the other ones that we've liked? Rising Tiger.
Rising Tiger was great. Yeah. It's the outline of the tiger head, right? Isn't it?
But in the reissue, it's just like a small, like a tiger image. It's a tiger on the front.
Hold on. ChatGPT might have come up big for us right here.
Okay, is it saving it?
There's a chance. The blue-green symbol on the cover of Near Dark by Brad Thor is a stylized Viking compass. I don't know how to pronounce this. Known as a Vegvisir, Vegvisir. An Icelandic magical stav was historically used as a navigation symbol to help travelers find their way through rough weather and uncertain paths. That's where Scott's at, and it's a Viking thing.
All right. Maybe I don't hate it as much as I thought I did.
Hold on, wait a minute. This symbol, which it sounds like a really cool concept, is definitely not that. Google this. Vegvisir. It doesn't look like it.
Oh, if that's not it.
If that were it, that'd be super cool. That's not it.
That is pretty cool that it brings up this
Viking compass.
Like someone who is lost.
Yeah.
Lost one's way in a storm or bad weather.
That would have been an awesome logo. I wonder why ChatGPT thinks that's the logo. So it doesn't look like it at all.
No, it doesn't.
Why do you think that is the logo? Because of its distinctive radial design? Also because Brad Thor frequently incorporates Norse and Viking references in his books. Well, that is true.
So it's placing...
I think it's
trying to connect
a bridge
the dots.
too far. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think the symbol looks like that. But if it did, that would have been the better choice.
That would have been the better. Yeah, exactly. All right. ChatGPT's trying to save it, but didn't quite come.
Nice try.
Oh, have you seen, speaking of this new line, have you seen the reissue of Deadfall? I just saw it when I went on the Brad Thor page. It is freaking
BradThor.com.
dope.
Is it really? Brad Thor runs a great website.
He does. Top notch.
Where is it?
Go to the books.
Okay, Edge of Honor. I'm not seeing a new one. I still see the old Deadfall, which we loved.
Here, let me put it in the chat for you.
Oh, I got it.
Dude.
The Ukrainian symbol, it looks like the sword and the...
Yeah, and then look in the back.
wings.
It's like this bombed out...
The bomb.
Mariupol, like, you know...
Yo, that could totally be the clinic where that woman's hiding out in the opening scene.
Yeah.
Yo, that's a top cover. And they keep the colors. The Ukrainian kind of gold and blue. Wow. That's top notch.
Top notch.
That's good stuff.
See, that's an example where this symbol thing
it works
well. But
sometimes it's forced, and Near Dark, it's definitely forced.
All right, you take that away. Let's take that away.
Okay,
I kind of like this blood red with the Mont Saint Michel again.
Sure. Yeah.
You have Mont Saint Michel. It's a beautiful piece of art. Put it on your cover. That's a no-brainer.
Take the symbol off. It's a fine cover. The foreign ones we don't even have to talk about.
I don't mind the watercolor looking one with some Mont Saint Michel. It's kind of interesting. It's
It's very similar to cover A. It's like a very clear European interpretation of cover A.
Of cover A. Yeah.
It's like a Claude Monet watercolor, of cover A.
Which we don't often get. So
ChatGPT, do cover A by
exactly.
Brad Thor in the style of a 18th century impressionist.
Pretty much, yeah. Oh, man. If you guys are new to the pod and you're lost, we always put our little thumbnail so you can track along. When you listen to this pod, we reference A, B, C, D. It's all there for you. So just
eventually we'll have it uploaded on the website and the socials as well. So hopefully I'll embed it into the video version of our YouTube content.
A good idea.
So
Nice.
If you head to YouTube and go to the 1 hour mark of this podcast, hopefully I'll have a chance to embed these covers into it. But definitely it'll be up on our website and socials eventually. All right,
so what do we give
what's
it?
the score here? There's a lot we like. There's a few things we don't like.
4?
Is 4 a little generous? No, because A is really great.
A is really good. I'm taking A this series, and if I was judging A alone, I'd probably give it a 4.5. If not, like, it's verging on 5 territory for me.
I think on A alone I would do that.
But then I can't.
We have to count cover Bs because almost every book in the series, now that Deadfall has one, we're only 1 book short, has a cover B. And this one's not it.
And they're only pushing these covers now. So like
and they're pushing those ones hard.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have to take cover B into account. So give me 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you like A more than me. I still like it, but I don't like it enough.
All right. So what is that?
We gotta do some math.
I know we haven't had this many point 5s in a while. I'm 39.5.
I think I'm a 38.
38.
Can you do the math for me? Oh, I'll just subtract it from yours. 1/2 lower than you. 1/2 higher than you is even. 1/2 lower than you. Oh, 39 then.
Okay. Interesting. I came in higher than you. The cover.
I guess if I gave it that 4 on cover, we're at the same place.
We're the same.
Yeah.
Which I think you got me there. Like, we're talking it out. I think this is a pretty fair score. It's not. It's coming in right in the middle of the pack. Higher, some of the other ones we did. Doesn't quite crack that 40 mark that you need to get to be like a really, a decent book. I should say decent book, but to get like the top tiers are all scoring, 42 and above.
Yeah, I agree. I think the first time I read it, I would have been like low mid 30s. Like coming off it, I was pretty low on it, and it stuck that way for a few years. Coming back to it, hot off the Spy Master backlash press, that boosted a few points where I would think upper 30s is probably spot on. It's not cracking 40, but it's pushing.
All right, we got one more book to go.
One more. Woo! And you know why we were able to make it this far and keep going? Our patrons.
Always got to thank our patrons, including our Deputy Director, Sherry F., our Special Operator, Jason C., our Special Agents, Ben, Daryl, Kevin, George, Matt, Don, Peggy, Mark, and Chris. This was a good pod. I think I'm excited to finish the series. I'm excited to see where this pod goes in the future. I think we have a lot of good stuff. Mike has a vigorous reading list for us, and I got my two big travels out of the way so far. I think it'll be good. So go check out, subscribe, all 3 seasons of No Limits. Most of the stuff is going to be fully transitioning over to the Thriller Pod. You can find us at Thriller Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, thrillerpod.com. And as always, just let Solvey be Solvey.